this because last year at the conference we had a talk about security championship. It was by Swisscom. I don't know who have attended this, probably nobody. Anyways, doesn't matter, because today we have flown in from North Carolina. Bonnie, may I ask you to come on stage? And please join me in welcoming her with an applause.
Thank you.
Bonnie is working at Yahoo, where she has established a security program. And I think there's so much we can learn from you, what went well and what not. So what about success, that I'm more than happy to leave the stage to you and to listen to your fantastic talk. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for a great, for presenting me so wonderfully. Yeah, and thank you guys for being here this afternoon. I know we're on the last tail end of the conference, and so it's really a privilege to have you here with me. Just a little bit about me. I am a non-traditional engineer, and a lot of people ask me, what does that mean? Well, I don't have my CISSP, non-educational background in training. My background's actually in behavioral psychology and a master's in criminology, and I found my way into the cyberspace when AOL and Yahoo merged with Verizon Media, and I've been there since then, starting and building the security culture from the ground up, merging those two huge media companies. So I have become known as a cultural bridge builder. Goodness, let's hope I don't stumble so much. And really about changing habits through science and building a behavioral engineering team. So security champions programs. Right? Let's jump into what we're here to talk about today. So how many of you in this room have a security champions program at your company? Show of hands. Fantastic. So of the companies, there's about 35%. So surprisingly enough, many of you in this room have security champions programs. But in the industry, 35% of organizations have a security champions program at their company. So of that percentage that have a security champions company, stand up for me if you have a security champions program that you consider works really well. Stand up for me. Let's take a look. So only a few. Okay, that is good to see. So of the programs, stay standing up for a minute. Of the programs that say that they've worked really well, how many of you have scaled company-wide? All of you have scaled company-wide? If you haven't, go ahead and sit down. I'm just curious. So 65% have a successful program, and all of you have scaled company-wide. So that's about right. 20% of that have scaled company-wide, so you guys can sit down now. I always like to do that just as an introduction so that you can see, as people who have a program, does it work well? Has it scaled? And so what you learn from our industry statistics is that of those programs that work well, which is quite a few, they haven't really fully implemented into their enterprise. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is if you haven't fully implemented into your enterprise and scaled company-wide, we're going to talk about like the life cycle of a program and how you bring life into that so that your security champions become security influencers and you can move throughout the company. So let's start a baseline first. So security champions, obviously, they embody secure development culture in every product team. The teammates, we're going to look to these influencers for their expertise in security. And the longer they're within your security champions program, the more resources and demand for timing, and it may make it a little bit longer, but they really start to grow that security baseline to where they become influential in that design, secure by design. So aligning security baselines as you begin your program, you want to make sure that they have a baseline knowledge in what security is, right? Because sometimes that might not happen. I typically recommend OWASP Top 10, and that's just how you can understand the same terminology, get that same lingo going, and that everyone's talking the same language. So they don't really have to be a Scrum Master. They don't have to be, coding every day. They don't have to be doing your PR pools. What they really need to have is just the understanding of their team goals and processes and culture. So if they have an understanding in their tech stack, that's super beneficial. But having a passion for security is really when you're going to start to feel that life of its own. So building blocks of a program. So to build a house, you have to have a strong foundation. But to build a powerhouse, you need vision, constant collaboration, and organized focus that's going to lead to widespread influence. So we're going to jump into those building blocks of how you're going to mature your program. So, foundational planning, a clear vision with well-defined goals. You want to foster trust within any group and make an active, constant, creating an environment that uses the power of positivity to overcome obstacles. A lot of the obstacles that teams may see is whether it's time, right? How much time do you ask of your developers that are in your program? 20% seems like an awful lot, right? But that's typical baseline time that you're asking of a security champion. What I tend to recommend is when you're having that conversation with your leadership about how much time you're asking from your developers, is to say, we understand that it ebbs and flows. You may only be able to give 5% this quarter, but maybe next quarter you can give 35%, right? And so the more that they develop their knowledge and their skills in security, the more that they're going to be able to influence their teams. So, champions are engaged, they're going to start to feel supported and have a sense of ownership of the program. And once they have that engaged passion for security, they're going to be able to talk to their teams and talk to their leaders about why these programs are so important. So building these long-term partnerships is going to be what moves your program forward. And having an executive sponsor that's super passionate doesn't hurt either. So for you to have long-term success, you got to start to think about what your program's going to be like. Every program is different. Every company is different. Every culture and every champion skills set is completely different. So you want to start to think about that early vision of most programs is really just to spread the good word of security. Get that knowledge out, that grassroots building, and then start your cross-organizational build. So the more you can have open and honest discussions about what your program is trying to succeed in, what your success metrics are, why you want your developers to bridge that gap between security and the business, it's going to start to take on a life of its own. So really engage with your champions early, engage with them often, and give them that baseline skill set to be successful. So as they reduce friction between security and the business, your program's going to naturally start to gain momentum. So I am sure everybody in this room knows the concept of people, processes, and technology. Yeah, I would think so. So how does it apply when building a program where they're seen as volunteers? Anybody? So we're not going to treat them like volunteers, right? We're going to build them up. We're going to ask them, what do you want from being a part of this program? How can I support your growth, your career aspirations, and even sometimes just your knowledge or your skill set to be able to talk to your leadership, right? So arming them with those tools to be successful, those resources, and really starting that lasting circle of influence is what you want your program to ultimately be able to achieve. So we are going to jump into this development life cycle of a Security Champions program. There are two key things that are actually missing from this slide, and I left them out for a reason. And the first one, before you start getting into this regularly scheduled community meetups and being consistent, is the company discovery. So maybe you're a program leader or you're an executive that wants to get that, upward business momentum into building a program. So you're going to discover at your company, has there been a program prior? And if so, was it successful? Is there documentation around it? Where's the discovery aspect of how can I make sure that if there was a program that ended up dormant and ended up faltering, that I don't make those same mistakes? And so be sure that you do a lot of discovery if you're just getting into that initiation phase of creating a program. Because there's probably people that have came before that have either tried and it's now dormant, or it's super successful and you're just trying to continue that build. So be sure to do some discovery if you're taking over the program as a lead or as an executive trying to create buy-in. The second thing I like to say is this to the left is becoming consistent. So I cannot tell you how much it changed when we started becoming consistent at Yahoo with our program. We had our community meetups scheduled bi-weekly, and we had those on our calendar. We had security talks and security talkers that were coming in based on what our security champions wanted to know about, or maybe tasks that we were going to ask them to do eventually. And so we used those meetups to build our community and to start to mature that consistency to where they knew every bi-weekly, we were going to have a meetup. There was going to be a security talker. We were going to let you meet them, and we were going to start to build, again, that circle of influence and from security into the business. So be consistent. I can't tell you how much that's going to help you. Also, the second thing we're going to talk about is defined and documented processes. If you're a single person as a leader that's either starting it or taking it over, you're going to notice that if there's documents before you, that's fantastic. If not, leave the program better than you found it. Here, if you can automate this, the best way to do your onboarding process, obviously, where does your source of truth for the company information live? And then how do I integrate into that? So if you're going to start doing that onboarding, again, that OWASP top 10, set that foundational build, maybe there's some background into why security is at your company now, how you're building that baseline of security culture, and you're using your champions to really expand that. Make sure that you document all that and you talk about it, and they know where to find it. So if they want to be a part of the program, or if they hear through grassroots efforts that this is happening, and hey, I've got a passion for security, I'd love to bridge that gap, then they're going to go out and they're going to search for that documentation. Or if you're getting ready to scale, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, how to scale your program, you want to have that source of truth to where you can send them to. Because if you're only one person as a program lead, and typically you might not even be 100% to your security champions program, which most program leads aren't, you're going to have to somehow cut back on that manual work. So automate, automate, automate as much as you can. Here, personally, I use the source of truth, which is success factors for training, made it on demand, put it into success factors, built a Confluence page, said, hey, we're going to send you to this page. As soon as you finish your first training, it's going to automate an email into my inbox, and I know I'm going to reach out to you, and I'm going to officially bring you into the program. So that's just one example of how to automate and to get your program to start to grow and scale faster, but there's many options. And again, you want to make sure it fits into your company culture. So always keep that in the back of the mind. I can give you the building blocks, but you guys have to implement it with the culture within your company. So the next thing would really be to automate and track onboarding and security knowledge skills with a dashboard. A bespoke dashboard. If your company or your security team already has a dashboard where a lot of information is located, go ahead and just plug right into that. Looker's a great place to go to be able to build those dashboards, and then make sure that you socialize it. And this dashboard is going to be what's going to help you scale. So we're going to talk about scaling next. So I did want to go ahead and put this dashboard here for you. This is completely mock dashboard, fictional numbers, but I'll walk you through how I set it up, and then you guys can possibly set one up yourselves if you need to scale quickly. So up at the top, we said we want to have one champion for every 10 engineers within our product teams. And so to get there, we knew, how do we find these folks? And so we started talking about it, the onboarding, how you become a security champion, why it's so important. Why is it important for the business and the engineering teams to have a link directly to the security team? That's what the business wants to know, right? Why is this so important? What is the reason that you need to grow your program? And then you just use the dashboard for scaling. And we did it by management levels. We said, one for every 10 engineers. So if you had 40 engineers on your team, we wanted 4 security champions for your development team. And 2 out of 4, we gave them this. We could then take a look and say, okay, well, where are our gaps across the enterprise? Where are we missing champions where we really want to bridge that gap? Development and growth, right? What was the reason? Scale for purpose. And if you scale for purpose, I'm telling you, it's a game changer. And as you scale for purpose, think in the back of your head, what was the purpose I originally wanted to scale? What was the purpose the business needed security champions to start to bridge that gap? For us, it was digital transformation. So in the space, obviously, digital transformation rears its head in the industry wide. I mean, it's been going on for a couple years now. We needed every security product that was going to migrate to the cloud to have a security review. So what better way to scale our program than to have a security champion understand what those security review processes will look like? We're going to cut down the product teams. We're going to shorten their time to migration, and we're going to use our security champions as those influencers to make sure we're secure by design as we're moving to the cloud. So as the champion lead, I said, I'm going to have to jump into the security review space and understand what we're asking them to do. And with understanding, Where does the information come from? How do you put it into your review? How do you talk to your leadership about it, even? Arming them with that knowledge to be able to go to their leader and say, as a security champion, I understand that we need X, Y, and Z to be able to migrate to the cloud, make that leap to the cloudy sky. And then they've already pulled all the information. So if you have 50 questions on your security review, they know exactly where to get all of that data and how to put it into your review process. Cuts down on their time, makes the review process quicker for your security team, right? And then you're able to support the business in a very productive way. So that was our reason for scaling. Many other companies might have many other different reasons for scaling. So think about, again, what's right for your company, what's right for your program. The next thing you want to do is obviously develop that growth strategy. As I talked about that leap to the cloudy sky, our growth strategy was really like, okay, well now we know we have these holes based on our dashboard where we're missing champions. So how do we fill those holes? And that's when the lead's ability to market and sell comes in. So if you're not a natural salesman, that's perfectly okay. What you're going to start to think about is like, okay, I'm going to use the dashboard. I'm going to send it over to the managers, and I'm going to say, hey, this is where we've been successful. Start to build success stories. Start to get feedback from other managers that give you little snippets that say, this program is fantastic. We love that we have a security champion. It has cut down on, all of the time that we would have taken to do these normal security reviews. It now takes us half the time. Get those snippets. Make sure that you, again, go out onto your intranet and your internal source of truth and really promote the program. So once you have scaled and you've undoubtedly been successful in building your program and bringing in all these champions, I can tell you right now, it was exhausting. And I was only one person, and I only had 50% of my time to give. So I'm going to connect them to my security subject matter experts within their product. And this is where squads come in. So when I talk about squad alignment and why squads are so important, the implementation is basically these small skill-based security squads. So based on the products, based on the design that they're building, based on the features that they may be building, how do we align them with somebody from security, build their circle of influence, and also give them that contact to where they know exactly who to go to if they're having any security issues. And so what it does is it increases predictability for secure development. It gives you timing. It gives your leadership gives you more to talk to your leadership about your success. And then it really gives you that close security partnership between your SMEs and a deeper understanding of the business. And so they're able to be more successful. In short, it cuts down on their work, and it makes everything move a little bit quicker. So it reduces friction, and it enhances that security integration between, again, bridging that gap between security and the business. And that's the whole point of a Security Champions program. Successful implementation of this was a little bit difficult, I won't lie. You had to change the mind of your SMEs. You had to change the mind about how people viewed, like how they all work together. But I said, put in a little bit of effort up front, and I guarantee you're going to get returns, and returns on the back end that they did. Now, I will say, security, again, back to your scaling, back to your community meetups, this is a great place to start to talk about those squads, let them know what direction you're going in. Create charters, create key milestones, and even create yearly goals that you can meet. Because those are the things that are going to matter to the leadership. When they say, well, I've been giving you a security champion for this X amount of time, what have they done? You can immediately point to all their success because you already have it all documented. You've already bridged that gap. You know how to talk to it. You can train your champion how to talk to it as well. So once you have your program is solid, you have scaled, you have built those relationships and collaborative efforts, now let's see here, what would champions focus on? And how do we get them to complete security tasks that show value and spread influence? Not a hard request at all. Let's solve all the security resource problems in less than 3 minutes, okay? Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we're going to keep our community meetups up. We're going to keep our efforts there, really aligning them to the different parts of security. It's not just about that one connection. They might get interested in cyber defense. They might find that they have a deep passion for red teaming, blue teaming, purple teaming. As you start to grow their knowledge in the community meetups, you're bringing in different security practitioners that have different viewpoints and perspectives on security, different jobs in security. There's so many, right? You're passionate about it. They're getting passionate about it. They might even want career development in it, right? That's one of the key things for them. So understanding what their priorities and why they're in the program is super important. We're going to share our knowledge. We're going to keep our community meetups fairly tight, keep them going, stay consistent. The second thing that I always recommend is we're going to meet our developers where they live. And for a lot of developers, it's in their sprints. And so if you guys use Jira, then obviously you can have quarterly Jira tickets. And what you're going to do there is you're going to be very descriptive. This is another way you can start to build that success, right? You can start to track that success. Is start with small requests and really building up their baseline knowledge. So we're going to talk about gamification and leveling and all of that here in a moment, but this is where you're really going to start to be able to ideally have those two champions, and your tickets and squads are going to provide that direction. Am I running out of time? Okay. And so really keep them wanting more, and then make sure that you do response feedback. So end of year surveys for your program, super important. Make sure that you're bringing those in, relay on the need for high champion response rate, nudge and boost. Behavioral engineering right there, nudging them, getting them respond. Once you get that response, be sure to implement it into the program. If you're not, then they're going to say, why did I give you a response in the first place? And then the last thing, Net Promoter Score. Also super important. And the reason is this is where the business finds that value, right? So one question, I typically say, would you recommend this program to another professional within your team? If you get an 8 or a 9 score, your program's doing well. Be sure to discuss that. All hands meetings, everywhere you can where leadership's present, because this is going to be very important for continuing that. Obviously, champions burn out, they build up, they get promoted, recidivism happens. This is also where you're going to ask them to start to backfill themselves, and you know that you've made it when they begin to backfill themselves. So, last 3 things, optimization and maturity of the program. These are 3 areas where you can start to consider. If you're one person as a leader for your Security Champions program, 2 minutes, you can do, has anybody heard of 80-20s? Might mean something different to everybody different, but 80% of the time you work on your day job, 20% of the time you get to work on a passion project. So I went out and I found people that were not like me. I went out and found out a couple of software developers and said, hey, come work with me, help me make this program grow. And they had different perspectives and we brought those in. Legally enabled shared security activities. If you are going to give your team security tasks, you wanted to check in with your legal team. Make sure you're not giving them anything that they shouldn't be doing that a security professional should be doing, right? So be sure to engage with your legal team. This is going to set the bar. Last, future goals, leveling criteria, and gamification. This is the highest level of maturity that you can think about. If you're thinking of implementing gamification, what you want to do is make sure that it's going to work for your company. Go out, do small A to B testing, do case studies, make sure that's something your champions want. So end of your survey, hey, do you guys want to gamify this program? Let's level you up. The higher the level they get, the higher the risk that they can do for activities. And that's kind of where gamification really takes a hold. Lastly, we are going to make sure to appreciate and acknowledge. Swag is great, swag, swag, swag. As they become a champion, we typically gave them a t-shirt. We wrote resume blurbs for them, explaining exactly what they did with security so that now their resume is starting to build up. We gave them company shout outs. We went in and gave them LinkedIn badges and said, hey, they're a security champion for our company. We're promoting them on LinkedIn now. And we're rolling it up to leadership all the way. And if they did what we call where they really had impact in security, so maybe they worked on repos and they onboarded them, all their repos, 1,000 repos to one of your tools, yeah, that's a success story because now you're more secure and they've been doing a lot of work. So in the end, designing, sharing knowledge, and building a program's maturity really takes a strong foundation, clear direction to enable that growth and stability. And then overall, this is just a model. This serves as just an organization, implement, and practical approach to data security and to make your program effective. So I hope that you have learned something today, that you don't need a whole lot of money. You don't have to be the techiest of tech. And all you need is a group of dedicated community individuals who have a strong passion for security to make your program grow. And if you leave your program better than it was, even better.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. Let's give a warm applause. Wow.
Speeding up.
All good. We have really felt the passion that you have for this topic, and I think it must be great to build such a program with you. I would like to open the room for questions. Oh, there's plenty. Great. It's hard to say who was quicker. I would say the man in the back. This is the intrinsic motivation, the passion that you bring. I mean, this is so important,
Thank
right?
you.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise, you cannot
Can you hear me?
get the others. Yes,
Okay.
we can.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very interesting and very insightful, but I have two questions out of this, because we also run something, and what makes me interested is how do you handle the problem with the competencies? So when they see, for instance, a security problem, can they stop something and have the right to demand the change? And the second question is, what type of, not giveaways, but what type of benefit is in for the security officers in future? So I think they get a lot of tasks, they get a lot of responsibility and work. And what is in the future when they want to change their job or so? Do they have any benefit out of this, that they can say, oh, here I have a license, here I have a certification, which is recognized outside of your company? Are you also doing something in this area?
Yeah. So to your first point, when you say they recognize something and do they stop it, I'm going to approach this from one way, but I might not answer your question. Is essentially what your program is hopefully doing is providing that feedback loop between the business and security. And so if they're seeing something that may be not as secure, they're keeping their eyes and ears out for where security goes wrong, and they're able to know where to go to find those answers. Now, as you start to mature your program and you get into that leveling criteria, that's more training that they've gotten. When I talked about those on-demand trainings, we trained them in, our open source stuff. We trained them in different security activities that they had to be, and we called it endorsements, before we actually allowed them to do those. So I think that answered your question, but so what? We can talk after too. And then your second question was,
I don't remember. If questions are so long, I only remember the first sentence.
Certifications, yes. So like I said, we did do the LinkedIn, but what they took away from it is we promoted them if they were very engaged in the program. We brought them to security conferences with us. And so they expanded their knowledge. Some of them did go off and get certifications. We had gotten to the point where we were looking into paying for those certifications, but I had recently handed off the program at that point. So they are still looking into that. But yes, I think that's a great direction to bring the program in.
So there was yes.
Michael.
My question would be, so you started your security program, Grow, basically motivated by this migration towards the cloud, if I understood this correctly. Yeah? So this was one of the starting points and one of the goals to support and make this migration easier and smoother. And my question would be, what happens after this migration is done to the security program? Do you change the goal, or do you maybe at this point recognize the business value that it's generally easier to push products to market when the security is taken care of by the security champions?
Yeah, when your security champions are within all of your product teams, it does that whole shift left mentality starts to take a hold. So, they're understanding like when in their design phase they need to, have that first connection with the security team. They're not waiting until after they're ready to launch and go to market, and then the security team is stumbling to make sure that they're secure by design. They're actually doing it within their design process. After we migrate to the cloud, which I think feels like it's going to take forever, we're still in migration. There's other things, like I said, that leveling criteria, the future of your program. That's when you re-engage every year your life cycle. What's the goals for this year? And then that's what you point your security champions in that direction. So every few years, every year it may change, and it's based on your company goals, based on your security team's goals, and then how you can integrate the two to make sure you're providing value for the business.
Thank you, Bonnie. Final question and very short answer, please.
Okay.
Switzerland is a country where we have a lot of small and mid-sized enterprises, SMEs. We have 600,000 SMEs in Switzerland. Does such a program work for the SMEs? And second question, does it also work for companies that are not developing themselves, like software? Yeah,
I think absolutely. It doesn't matter the size of your company, doesn't matter the end goal. If you're just trying to get security across the enterprise, this is the best way to go, regardless of size.
That's a wonderful final statement. Thank you so much, Bonnie, and thanks everybody. Let's move on.